you can see I set the title Review for Midterm and Help for Project 1. Yeah. At this point, we need to do these two things. Very important. So I just use Module 5 to do these two things. After that, in Module 6, I will do, new technology. But let us focus on these two things first. Today, the first part, we will do review for midterm. I will explain selected questions from 3 quizzes. I haven't completed the grading on Wednesday. I think I can complete the grading on Wednesday. So Wednesday, I will talk about selected questions in our homework assignment number 1 as the review part. All right, yeah, review part. So we will use today and Wednesday most of the time to do review for midterm. Then our midterm questions very similar to these questions. 3 quizzes and 1 homework assignment. Yeah, so when you study, yeah, so you mainly focus on those questions. Yeah. All right, but the second part today, I will talk about a few features in our project number 1. Yeah. Wednesday, I will also talk about a little more features for the project number 1. Yeah. Because after the midterm, you will have approximately 2 weeks to complete your project number 1. Yeah. All right, so let me start the review part first. 8.1, I select 5 questions from quiz 1. Yeah. So let me just explain, because here, although you can see answers, but sometimes you like to know more explanation, not just answers, true, false, yes, no, So you like to know a little more than that. Okay, yeah. So here, let me just explain some background for selected questions. For those questions I do not select, I feel the answer is pretty obvious. Okay, so if you just find somewhere, you do not need much explanation. Yeah, for those, yeah, I just skip. Okay, all right. So let's start our first question. All right, this one, question number 2. Is it possible to use Tomcat as a production server? Yeah. The answer is yes. Yeah. The reason as a production server, because right now, remember, our version of Tomcat. Yeah. Most recent versions, number 8, number 9, number 10. Okay. The most recent, number 10. Actually, since version 4, yeah, since version 4, Tomcat can be used as production server. All right. Before version 4, it cannot be used. Not that good. We know the production server we need, right? Robust, secure, and fast, right? If you do not satisfy these requirements, so you cannot use it as a production server. Okay, yeah, but after version 4, then Tomcat was very solid, right? Although it is a very small server, so you can see the size approximately, 10 megabytes, slightly more than 10 megabytes. As a software, as a production version software, that is very small. Web server, Java web server, that is pretty small. Yeah. But it is very good. But another thing I like to let you know is, although it could be used as a production server, but its market share, it is very small. Okay, market share. Only about 1%. 1% for the whole web server, not just Java web server, for all web servers, 1%. Yeah, that is, pretty small. Okay, yeah. The reason, the reason I can explain a little bit, because many web servers are not Java servers. Apache server, not Java server, right? Apache server, very popular. Yeah. And there is another server more popular than Apache server. Okay, those are non-Apache servers. Their market share about 30%. 30%. Okay, yeah, each one more than 30%. Yeah. And after that, there are many other different servers. So total 100%. Now you can see Tomcat has only 1% share. All right, yeah, okay. But as a development server, it is very popular. Java development server. Okay, Java developers, you just use Tomcat to develop your Java project, web project. Then after you complete it, for the deployment, it is very easy, another group of people. So we call it deployer. So in a company, there is a team doing that deployment. Okay, they are called deployers. Okay, so they will know how to wrap it up, how to convert, modify, from your Java source code, then to their final production server. Okay, yeah. So you have to do some change. Yeah. All right. Here, let us. All right. So these two students. That's the background of this question. Okay. Yeah. So let me move to the next question. Yeah. Let me see, question 5. Does the Tomcat server support the hot deployment of Java web application? The question is yes. I show you in the class, right? Hot deployment. I start Tomcat first, then I draw that Duke example into the deployment folder, web apps, that folder. So then you can see some messages, telling you, this web application has been deployed successfully. Now, if you do not see any error messages, then you can run it. You can start your web application. Yeah. But the thing is, this is not a good way. Not a good way for production version of your web applications. Okay, although it's convenient for deployment, that's convenient. You do not have to shut down your Tomcat server, then copy, then restart. Yeah, for development version, then it is a convenient way because only you use your web application. So you use the hot deployment, you can do it faster, right? But for production version, you can imagine the real world situation if you do hot deployment. Think about your customers. If your customers are using this current web application, they're using, right? So they enter the business data into the web application, but suddenly you do the hot deployment, you replace it by a different version. Then your customers would lose their data. The data is gone, okay? So you don't like that kind of thing happen, right? So for the production situation, you should shut down that web app. You do not need to shut down Tomcat, okay? But you can undeploy that web application. So tell your customer, okay? Yeah, so at this time, we do not, so we have to, update our software. We do not support any activities at this time, okay? Yeah. Then you just do the normal deployment, yeah. Hot or cold, if Tomcat is running, so you can use the hot way, but the hot way is not your web application is running, yeah. Now your web application is running, you undeploy first, yeah. So for the production case, you need to undeploy it first. Okay, yeah. Remember, I show you the Tomcat manager page. On that manager page, there is undeploy button. See that undeploy button? You click undeploy button. So you stop it. Then no customer is using that. So you're safe, then you do the deployment. All right, yeah, so that's the real world situation, yeah. Next, question number 7. Is it possible for us to develop a Java web app without using the web.xml? Yeah, here we are talking about develop, okay? Not deploy, all right? That's different, that's quite different, okay? Not deploy. We know for the deploy case, you need to include web.xml, okay? Based on the servlet specification, you have to provide web.xml to your Java web server, all right? But development, that's different, okay? Development, we know we use some IDE to do it, right? IDE, yeah. Here in this class, we use Eclipse. EE, okay? Yeah. But the IDE can generate a default web.xml. Okay. So although we do not provide it, the IDE would provide it. All right. Yeah, it's there. It's there. We cannot see it. IDE generates it automatically. Yeah. So possible. Yeah. For us, most Java programmers they skip the step. Okay, yeah. They never touch this web.xml, yeah, but it still works. Okay, yeah. So from the developer's point of view, yeah, if you look at from the production level point of view, then you need it. Yeah. Deployment perspective, you can skip that. Yeah. So that's the main difference. Okay, all right. Question number 9. Is it possible to change the port number for the Tomcat server? Answer is yes. Yeah, but here I may like to look at the ways to change the port numbers. Change the port number. Yeah. Change the port number in the configuration file. Yeah. In that, remember there is a conf folder. It is a folder. Inside it, there is a .xml configuration file. Inside that, you can change the port number. That is one way. But another way, sometimes some IDE allows you to change the port number. Okay, some IDE after you start a Tomcat, then your Tomcat basic information is displayed, in some small window. Yeah. So if you can access that small window, you have a chance to change Tomcat port number. Yeah. Because the reason sometimes you need to do it, sometimes you may have some conflict. Yeah. Sometimes due to some reason, some unknown service, Windows service occupies that port number. Okay? So you cannot start your Tomcat at that particular port number. So you have to change to a different port number. That could happen. That could happen. Okay, yeah. Or think about that another situation. Although it's rare, you may like to run more than one Tomcat instances. Think about that. Okay, you may like to run more than one Tomcat servers on your machine. It's possible if you use different port numbers, you can run. So one Tomcat doing something here, another doing something different. You just do the simulation of two different web servers. Yeah. Just what I mean, there are some special cases. You may have a reason to change the Tomcat port number. All right. So that's this question. The last question of quiz 1, is it possible to deploy a Java web application on a remote? Yeah, is yes, because we use that Tomcat manager page. Yeah, Tomcat manager page. All right. Yeah. You need to have the privilege to access this page. Yeah. So in the you need to have account, manager account. Okay. Username, password. So then you work at home. Yeah. The company Tomcat production server, definitely remote machine. Then you need to log in, then you work on that Tomcat manager page. In that way, you can upload Java web applications to the server, deploy, undeploy. Think about that, right? So you can work at home, yeah, but deploy, undeploy web applications for a company. Okay, yeah, very convenient. Yeah. All right, so that's our quiz 1. Yeah. Next, quiz 2. I also 5 questions. 5 questions. The first one, question number 3. A JSP file in a Java web application never needs to be compiled by the server, but it can provide services to the users because the server will interpret it. Answer is false. Yeah. We spend quite some time in class learning the procedure, the JSP. Yeah. How to compile, how, translate, compile, running. Look at that procedure. Okay. So for a typical JSP, yeah, in order to use it in your Java web application, first step, translate. Okay, translate from JSP to a servlet form. Okay, after that, compile. All right, then execute. All right, yeah, and last step, because we know JSP eventually we will display that page at the client side, right? So there is a render stage. We render the page, render. So you can see we need to go through these typical steps for a JSP. Yeah, all right. So here the compile step, not interpret. Yeah, here there is a similar way to execute a program, interpret way, but here we use the compile way. It's not interpret way. We know for PHP, it's an interpret way, right? Yeah. PHP, it is not compiled. PHP, that's the interpret way. Okay. Another web-related types, programs, JavaScript also interpret. Yeah, these 2 cases interpreted, but JSP compiled away, not interpreted. Okay, yeah. So do not get confused here. Yeah. Question number 4. Is it allowed to use the logical name of a servlet? Logical of a servlet to be a welcome file of Java web directly. Here the question is directly. Answer is no. Okay, indirectly it is fine, but not directly. All right. So okay, indirectly. That's okay. Yeah. Actually, in our project, our first project, we will use the indirect way. Yeah. Later, I will show you. Okay. In our first project, we will use the indirect way. But direct way, you cannot. Direct way, that means, so what's the direct way? Okay. Set it. It means the logical name. Okay. Set it in the web.xml file as a welcome file. That way is not allowed. All right. So you just set it. Yeah. So you have a logical name, you write that part directly, you put in, in the web.xml, there is a welcome file list, right? There is a welcome file list. Okay, yeah. Welcome file list. In that list, you can set multiple welcome file, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But if you put the logical name of a servlet in that list, then when the container is trying to load that welcome file, there is an error message. Because the container expects to find a physical file for that welcome item, welcome file item, but it cannot find it. It's a logical name. There is no physical file corresponding to this item. Then an error occurs. But we can get around it. This problem can be solved. We can get around it. Okay? So we use the indirect way. Indirect way, we create another JSP, physical JSP page. Then it redirect to this logical name. Okay, yeah. So the indirect way, create a JSP that redirect to this logical name. Okay, yeah. In that way, we can get around this problem. So in our project, we will use this way, right? In our project, we need to load some initial data before we display our first page. Yeah. So you may like to know, so why we need to do this in our project? In project 1, we need to load initial data. We know city tax rates, right? Cities tax rates before we display first page. Okay, yeah. Because before we have the initial data, we don't want to display anything. All right, yeah. So we create our first JSP. We do not display anything in that JSP. We just redirect to a servlet. So then we use that servlet to read initial data and prepare and put it in the request scope. Then we display a JSP containing initial data in the request scope. That is the first part of our project 1. Yeah. Today I will show you this feature part. I will use a sample, project 1 sample, project 1 sample part A. Next time I do part B, part C, showing you the main features in our project 1 to help you complete this project. Okay. All right. Number 5, when we use a servlet to provide the services to multiple users concurrently, do we have to use more than one servlet instances? The question instances. Answer is no. because one instance, one servlet instance can generate multiple threads. Threads here, not instances, threads to provide services to users concurrently. Yeah, so that's the main idea. Multi-threading technology, okay? Yeah. And the multi-threading way, we know different threads, they can share the same resource. Different threads under the same instance. So here, instance, yeah, one instance. Corresponds to one process. In Unix, you learn the process concept, right? Process, there is a process generated. So one instance corresponds to one process. Process, it means running program. Running program. Process. Okay, yeah. All right, so on the one process, yeah. Many, yeah, so then under one process, many threads can share the same resource. Right? Same resource. That's the reason multi-threading can save resource and provide services faster, because another way, if people use multi-process way, yeah, people can use multiple processes. That way, different processes, they cannot share same resource. They will use more resource. Okay, then they will be slower. Okay, yeah. If not a multi-threading way, multi-process way will be slower. Okay, yeah, using more resource, slower. Okay, all right. Question number 8. Can we use a JSP implicit object inside a JSP expression? Answer is yes. We saw the examples, right? Yeah, that Duke example. First, by our experience in Duke example, in that one, we use request, remember? Request implicit object, okay? Request .get parameter, right? Because we need to retrieve parameter. Okay, yeah. Get parameter, yeah. Oh, in a JSP expression, right? Yeah, get parameter if we want to print it out. Think about that. Yeah, we can use that, right? JSP expression, yeah. This is JSP expression, that equal sign, right? Equal sign, then can we just put request dot get parameter? For example, name, all right? No semicolon, right? Because in the JSP expression, do not put that semicolon. It's not a Java statement. So we do not put the semicolon at the end of the expression. Yeah. Yeah. So we can use it. Okay. Yeah. And later, we also talk about when we can use implicit object, when we cannot. But we know it's a method scope, right? Implicit object stays in the method scope, not class scope. Yeah. Not class scope, method scope. Okay. Yeah. So then we know out of that method, the method we know that's the underscore JSP service method. This method, okay, we refer to this method. So out of this method, we cannot use implicit object. Okay, we cannot use implicit object. So we know JSP declaration, JSP directive, we cannot use implicit objects. Okay, JSP implicit objects. Yeah. So we have a lot of discussion on that. Yeah. But here, you do not have to, you know, go through all those things. Yeah. All right, but you need to find something to justify it, justify this answer. Okay, all right. Yeah. Next, the last question of quiz number 2, can we use JSP implicit object inside a JSP directive? Now we know we cannot, because this JSP directive out of the method. What method? Underscore JSP service method. This method. Okay. Yeah. Out of this method, out of scope. So that means implicit object is not available. Okay, out of scope. Sorry, I have to go a little faster, yeah, because we will run out of time quickly. Yeah, let me, quickly finish quiz number 3, because I need at least 5 minutes to talk about one special feature, loading initial parameters in our project number 1. Okay. All right, at least 5 minutes. Yeah. All right. 8.3 explanation for quiz number 3. I select 7 questions from quiz 3. Question 1, PHP and Java use the same approach to do database queries for various database management system. Answer is false. The reason, remember, Java used some universal way, okay, for all different DBMS. The API part, the same, universal way. PHP using the individual way, all right? So for each individual DBMS, it uses a special set of functions to access. Yeah. All right, so that's the background. Yeah. Question number 2, in Java, when we use the JDBC technology to do database queries, if we switch to a different database manager, do we need to change API part? Yeah, remember, if we emphasize API part, then no change. Yeah. But we need to change something, right? Remember, we need to change 3 things. Okay. Yeah. DB driver. All right, one thing to change. URL, right? URL, yeah, including username, password. Okay, all right. Yeah. So then the 3 possible database queries. Yeah. Possible. Sometimes you do not change, sometimes you need to change. Okay. Yeah. Possible change. In DB queries. Okay, only these 3 things you may need to change, but they do not belong to API. Okay, yeah. When we talk about API, these things we treat as parameters. For API. Okay, parameters. We pass them as parameters to our API methods, classes, methods. Yeah. So not the API part. Yeah. All right. Question number 6. If a Java bean does not have the default constructor, so what's the default constructor, right? Default constructor provided by the compiler if you do not provide any constructor. Okay. In your Java class, if you do not include any constructor, that's possible. Okay. That could happen. Under that situation, the compiler automatically generates a default compiler. Default constructor. It's empty. It's an empty constructor for you automatically. Then your class can be used to construct objects. Okay, yeah. So that's the default constructor. All right. All right. So if your Java bean does not have the default constructor, that means you already provide some non-default constructor. Then the compiler won't do it. Yeah. All right. It is still possible that the Java bean can be used as a valid bean in JSP. Yes, still possible, because if you provide a non-arg, no argument, okay? No, yeah, but not non, no arg, no argument constructor. Okay, you provide no arg constructor for your Java bean. Okay, under this situation, then the compiler does not provide any, does not provide that default constructor, because you already have one. Okay, but that one must be no arg. Okay, must be no arg. If with arg, if with our constructors that cannot be used by the container requires this, okay? So this condition, container require this. Okay, yeah. All right. So it's true. Okay. So you need to know these things. So then you will be very confident to answer this question. Okay. All right, so let me go a little fast. Sorry, yeah. We have 15 minutes here. Yeah. All right, so we're fine. Yeah. In a Java bean, it is allowed that it could have an instance variable whose name is different from any of its properties. Yeah. Answer is true, but I hope you know the story. Yeah. You know why it is true. I explained in class. I explained it in class. Yeah. But I hope you have that story in your mind. So that is, here we'll talk about instance variable and property, relationship. Yeah. They could be different. Usually, we use the same names. Usually, these two things, they use the same name, but if they use different names, still no problem. Yeah. So I use the example. Yeah. Instance, we can define string, variable, we call it F name. Okay, first name, F name. Okay, yeah. Then, but for property, we may just use first name as the property, because the property, it corresponds to getter, right? Get first. Suppose we define this method, getter, okay? Get a first name, then this part, that's what do we talk about property. Okay, but not here, not this part, not here, not this one for the property. Yeah, because the reason is simple, private. We know when we use instance variable, it's a private instance variable, right? We set it private. Private, it is hidden. The outside environment cannot see it. Outside environment does not know this instance variable, hidden, right? But this getter is public. This getter is public. Okay? So its name is exposed to outside environment. Get first name, that name is exposed to outside environment. So outside environment can see get first name. Right? So the outside environment can, do some processing to extract property from get first name. Okay, extract the property. Okay, yeah, because it's public, visible to the outside environment. So the corresponding properties can be extracted by the outside environment. All right, so that's the reason. All right, so instance variable not visible by the outside environment. Okay, all right, so that's the main point of this question. All right, next one, number 8. in a Java bean, if a method does not start with get, it cannot be used as the getter of any of its properties. False, the reason is there is another case. Another case is case, right? Start with is, then property, certain property. This case for Boolean values. So if your property takes true or false, that kind of Boolean values, then for better readability, so this case is for better readability. Yeah, that means if you use get, it still works, okay? If you do not use is, use get for Boolean value, Boolean properties, it still works, but the readability is not as good, okay? The readability, you know, because people sometimes they try to understand using the English meaning. The English meaning could be, you know, not quite make sense, okay? Yeah, not quite make sense, okay? Yeah. So that's the readability problem. Okay? If you change to is, then it makes sense, okay? It makes sense. So that's the reason, yeah. They provide option, is property option, okay? You can use. Yeah. So that's the background of that. Question number 9. In the Java web application, all the Java beans can only be used for storing data in their properties, nothing else. The problem is we can do another important thing, data processing. Other than data storage, you know, storing data. Yeah, we need to transmit data, right? Using Java Bean to transmit data. So that's the main usage. But another, this data processing usage also important. Yeah, because we want to use the Java power to do data processing. Okay, we know Java is very powerful. Okay, many classes we can use to do data processing. Yeah. So we can put in our Java beans so we can make our data processing capability very strong in our JSP. So that part also important. Okay, yeah. Remember one principle we like to use, we want to minimize Java code in JSP, right? Minimize Java code, but we don't want to, because if you minimize the Java code, we don't want to reduce the capability to do data processing, right? Although we want to minimize the Java code in JSP, we want to preserve the strong data processing capability in JSP. How can we do that? Through Java beans. Through Java beans. Yep. So in that way, we shift all the data processing tasks from JSP into Java beans. Then we can make our JSP code quite clean. Yeah. You know, the structure wise, very easy to understand, but the strong data processing code is inside the Java bean. Okay. All right, so that's this question. The last one for question number 3. In order to make Java bean serializable, you have to implement serializable interface in this Java bean explicitly. Yeah. Not explicitly. Yeah. So it's false. So not have to. It is an option. Right? Yeah. Not have to. It's an option. Yeah. But if you do not implement, then it's your responsibility to make your Java bean serializable. All right? It's your responsibility. Yeah. Compiler won't do it. Yeah. So if you implement, if you implement, okay, then compiler would help you to check if it is serializable. All right, so that's the reason we implement. But if you skip this step, compiler won't check it for you, but you, based on your experience, you know, it is serializable, okay? I don't need compiler check it for me because I'm 100% sure, based on my experience, it is serializable. So that's fine, okay? That's fine. All right, oh, yeah, we don't have a lot of time. So let me get to that project feature quickly. Yeah. 8.4, discussion on project. Yeah. Remember that here I want to focus on the loading, initial data loading part. Yeah. All right. First, we need in our welcome file, we only put this one line, okay? Yeah. I will upload the sample project part A, so you will run it, play around. So in that welcome file, only this line is used. So the start servlet, URL for servlet, URL for a servlet is called, okay? Yeah, so you know, then we need to write that servlet to do the initial data loading part, okay? All right, then, all right, how to set initial parameters? Here, all I set initial parameters, cities. So here I put the city, use comma separated string, okay? String, one string, yeah, but I use commas to separate cities, okay? So that's in this part is web.xml, web.xml, okay? All right. Here you can see the business people can do this part. The business people can type cities, tax rates in this file directly. Okay? We know most business people, they are not programmers. So we do not want those business people to access our Java programmers. But here we allow them to provide cities, tax rates, you know, and we can modify in web.xml. All right, yeah. So that's the initial parameters. Then in our servlet, this is our start servlet. Okay? In our start servlet, we use these 3 lines to load initial parameters. Load initial parameters. Okay, yeah. Servlet context class, CTX, this is the servlet, get servlet context. Then through that context, .get init parameter cities, tax rates with a space, no problem, space, okay, yeah. Then we reload the data and we display. Okay? Yeah. So this feature, we can do it this way. Okay? But here I use string array to store the city information, but in our project, we need to use a list of a list of strings, not a string array. Yeah. So that part, I will use part B to explain that this way. Okay. Yeah. Here, this is our sample project part A. Now part B, I will do that this way. Okay. All right, so let me stop right here. On Wednesday, I hope I can find 10-something minutes, about 10 minutes to do that part B. Sample project part B. Okay. All right, so let's